You're welcome. So the name of this meeting is Relax into Health, Wealth, and Happiness. And maybe we are not clear on what that even means. So let's take a moment to look at that, because sometimes it can seem like it's just a throwaway. But it is it gives structure to the what is it gives structure to the exploration. Okay, so it's not a throwaway, it's not totally irrelevant. So let's take a look and see, what does this mean to relax into health, wealth, and happiness? Now, on the surface, we think probably, I would think, it sounds attractive, right? We think, oh, health, wealth, and happiness sounds attractive, right? That sort of sums up what we're looking for. And so it seems very attractive. And then, of course, most of the time we're told, well, health, wealth, and happiness can be yours if you work really, really hard and you're lucky. So then to relax into health, wealth, and happiness, that sounds even more attractive, maybe. But then there's something, cynical in the back of our mind that says, this is just clickbait, this is just some, and just another among many things vying for my attention. And so let's look and see what's really the truth of it. Okay, so now we think we know what it is to relax, and we think we know what health, wealth, and happiness are, but we don't really know. What we settle for instead are these symbols, these what I call dead knowledge. So you just notice, take each of those words, relax. So you think you know what that means. You notice there's an image, there's a mental image. Maybe you're not particularly visualistic, so maybe it's not a well formed image in that sense, but there's some sense of there's a mental image. There's some reference that's being made that's based on the past. It's based on some past experience or some past learning, some past something. So we say, oh, I know what it is to relax. But notice what you're looking to is just this idea or this image or this memory or this dead knowledge. It's not living now, presently. Well, for some of you, maybe it is. That's, I should be fair about it. There is a certain, so part of what is being offered, the invitation that's being extended is to actually notice the living reality of what these words point to. So to be fair, some of you may notice that, and so that could be going on. For many of you, actually, look at who's here. I know some of you have been exploring this for years now, so I would hope and expect it to some degree there's some of that, but also notice there's also, and we can't help it, it's happening for everybody to greater or lesser degrees. There is still this reference to some dead knowledge. So that's just the word relax. So we think we know what that is, but we don't know what that is. If we really, really, really knew what that was, we wouldn't be here. Or if we were here, it would be a different thing. So here's another possibility, is that we could begin to show up and understand this is not like a judgment at all. This isn't like, this is what you should be doing. Please don't hear it that way. But it's just so that you can know about this possibility. That it is possible that you could have the experience of showing up and that you're here just shining that invitation, that you are that living invitation. And then you're extending that to others. And it might seem strange because, we're meeting virtually and it sounds a little woo, but nonetheless, I don't know what else to say about it other than that it is a reality that can be experienced. That it's possible just to show up and to be a living beacon of that light, and to be extending that, and without to know your own completeness and not be needing something else. But for the rest of us, we will find that to some degree, and even if that we have glimpses of that I've just described, that there's to some degree we find ourselves still looking for something. So we're showing up and we're looking for something. And so there's a sense of incompleteness. So if there's a sense of incompleteness or a sense of lack, this isn't, again, it's not a judgment. Understand that it may provoke a judgment within yourself. So that's okay. Everything is allowed here. Please understand, everything is allowed. It's very, very important. We're just interested in seeing. We're interested in welcoming and allowing whatever's here, even if there is judgment, to allow the judgment without judgment of the judgment, which seems a little overly complex, but nonetheless, you see that that's a possibility, that you, at some point, there's a judgment, and then there's a judgment of the judgment, and normally we're just judging the judging and judging that judging, and on and on and on forever. And we wonder why we're feeling unhappy. So at some point, that can stop. And that stops through effortlessness, through awareness. And so that's all we're interested in here. We're just seeing. So I'm pointing, describing, and then we're just looking. Okay, so we're looking at, again, this to relax into health, wealth, and happiness, and that we think we know what that is, and so we just dismiss it. We just toss it away like that's worthless. But actually, that right there is the gateway. Anything really can be the gateway if it's received now. So even though I understand that might just sound like gobbledygook, nonetheless, it's true. So just even that word, relax, you can notice that if you allow the reverberation of the present reality that it is pointing to, which is unknown and unknown to the mind, it's not grasped as some dead thing, but it's alive, it's vibrating. If we allow that without clamping down on it, then we start to actually know it. And we can't, draw a symbol of it or write it as a word. I mean, relax, it's a word, but it's just pointing to the living reality. So when we really just open to it and we start to really look and see what is this, then we're, wow, there's this openness. I don't know what it is, but by not knowing, suddenly I know. It's a paradox. You can't fake it, you can't force it, you can't just say, well, I don't know. You have to look, you see. So we look to see, what is this relax? And what comes up, if you're really honest, is you see everything that it's not, which is all this dead knowledge that's been accumulated, all the symbols and the ideas and the memories and the images and the feelings and the sensations, because you see all of those come and go. They 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 don't they're not constant. So we have had some experience that we consider to be relaxation. We at some point, somewhere along the line, maybe 20 years ago or 30 years ago, we had some moment of what we consider to be relaxation. So there was an experience, and that's now our reference point. And we say, oh, that was divine. If only I could get back to that. And so we're just constantly aiming to force the living present into conformity to this dead past. And the reality is that that clearly wasn't actually it. And it might have been a taste of it. It might have been something pointing very closely to it. It might have been that there was something authentic, some authentic glimpse, but we know that it wasn't the actual truth of what's pointed to by relaxation, because to be truly relaxed is to be effortless. And you see right now, there's effort being made. There's effort in trying to get it, trying to figure it out, trying to understand it, trying to even the comparison requires effort. So that's not the truth of relaxation. It's a simulation. And simulation, no matter how wonderful, will never really satisfy, because it's not the actuality. It's still simulated. It still requires some effort, and it's plastic. It's not going to satisfy, because it's not the true nourishment. It's only the living reality of relaxation, the true effortlessness. So there's just that word, relax. Notice what, as I said, it's a gateway. There's an invitation, and it's always here. So anything offers it, just that single word offers it. And then we've got three others. So health. So we can now look at, this is enticing. Health. Yes, I want health. Who doesn't want health? Of course you want health. Anybody who says they don't is lying. Because it is essential. But you see, again, when there's something, it's pointing to something authentic, and we know that there's a resonance there, and we're attuned enough to it to know that, so that we say, yes, I must have that. But then what we're doing, and you look and see now, it's the same thing that we've explored with this word relax. With health, we do the same thing. Now we've got some idea. This idea is drawn from some past experience. Now, it could have been something, a personal experience, or it could have been something that you observed in others. So you could say your story could be, you've never been well your whole life, you've always been unwell. But then why are you attracted to the notion of health? It's because there's some idea that you have, based on some idea of what others might experience. I mean, thereby what might be available to you, even though you haven't maybe directly experienced it, but you've imagined it. And so whatever the case, though, you see, it's just some idea. It's something that has happened in the past. It's something either that you experienced in the past and you remember, it's something that you've projected. onto others, and you remember that projection. And so that now that's your standard that you're measuring this aliveness now against. And this aliveness, of course, is alive, so it's dynamic, so it's constantly changing, and there's no way it's going to be what it was. It wasn't what it was anyway. You see, hopefully, the truth of that just to be clear about what I mean, what it was is it was the same aliveness, but the idea that we have about it is not that. The idea that we cling to. See, if we drop that just for one instant now, if you have the courage just to drop it, and you might think, oh, I don't know how to do that, but that's fine. You don't need to know how. See, that's the mind, which is simply a grasper. And it doesn't know how to not grasp, but you do, because you are by your very nature not grasping. You are this open awareness. So for one instant, without knowing how, you just don't grasp, and you just notice and tell the truth about it, that this moment and all of the past, that there is a living truth that is eternal and is constant. You can't, if you turn to the mind's going to say, huh? What? That doesn't make any sense. This is crazy. And it's true, to the mind, it's crazy. But so what? You know, in your heart, you know the truth of what's being pointed to here, because just drop, again, just for an instant, you just drop that fixation on mind and what the mind has to say about it, and its assertions that it knows all of this and that it can know it and it can figure it out and it's going to do all of that and hand it over and you'll have the ultimate prize. Just for a moment, stop being seduced by that and just tell the truth about the actual present reality now, which is wide open. And then you notice that all of the past is the same. Even though, yes, the mind may be grasping, there may be all sorts of various appearances of activity, but let's say in the background, the foundation of everything is just this wide openness. So the reality of what this word health is pointing to is that living reality. Now, here it's a tricky thing, because then the mind wants to get involved again, and it says, well, wait a second now, is this just some sort of scam? Am I being tricked? Is this, does this mean that in order to accept what's being called real health, I have to also accept that maybe I'll never have the kind of health that I thought I needed to have? And that's a very difficult one, because the mind will just get stuck there forever, because it's false premise. It's tricky. The answer is yes and no, which, we don't like that. But it's yes and no, because you see, the health that I thought I wanted, no matter how grandiose, no matter how wonderful, no matter how delightful, is it pales in comparison to the living reality of true health that is eternally available. So, but the difficulty is, as long as we're clinging and grasping to that notion of health, then we can't open to receive the true abundance of true health. So it is very useful to surrender the idea of health, but at the same time to understand that what the mind's usual mechanism is that when it does that, it latches on to the opposite. You can just see how it does this all the time. It likes it, so it just has to grasp at something. That's the only way that it can have a sense of existence, is this grasping. So it's grasping on to one polarity or the other. So it says, I'm going to get health, my idea of health. And then if you say, well, let go of that, it says, oh, I can do that. And then it's on over here. It says, oh, now I've got to, you mean I've got to just accept and embrace the misery that I've been struggling against in denial and so forth regarding, do I have to really just do I have to just do this? And that's not true either. So just notice that you don't have to do either of those, that the reality, notice that actually the present living reality of health, which is available right now, which is accessible to you because it's your essential nature. Now, you may not be able to recognize it in a sustained way, so don't demand that, but you can, I promise you can recognize it for an instant. So have the proper expectation, because it's like we're like preschoolers, we're before that, we haven't even learned to walk as far, in the big picture. So let's not have unrealistic expectations that I should have a sustained revelation. Let's just start small, be maybe a little bit realistic, and just tell the truth, which is, okay, if I keep doing what I've been doing, which is having unrealistic expectations and demanding what is just completely unreasonable and unrealistic. It's like children. I don't, if you've been around young children, then you might know this thing that, they'll sometimes they have a tendency to latch on to some thing that's just, completely unrealistic. It's like, that's never going to happen. Like, it's 9 o'clock at night and we've got to go to Disney World today. And, like, that's they're just dead set on it. It's like, you try to explain it, we live 1,000 miles away. It's like, we couldn't even get there in that amount of time. Like, it's not going to happen. No. We've got to go today. It has to happen. And so we have to see ourselves like that. See, that's what's going on, that we have these completely unrealistic, unreasonable, insane expectations. And that's the standard that we're constantly using. So of course we're going to be unhappy because those expectations can't be met, because they're completely absurd. So I get it. I understand the mind throws a tantrum. It says, wah, 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 I need to have it my way. If I don't have it my way, then I'm gonna, and then fill in the blank with whatever it's going to do. It's going to, something terrible, and life's not going to be worth living, and it's horrible, and I need to have it all right now. But just see that that's been going on for a long time, and that maybe gently, politely, with the greatest kindness and sincerity and love and compassion in your heart, you could just see it and invite that it's time to grow up. So then in this moment, we can allow for just a glimpse and see that this glimpse is essential. This glimpse is what is our it is the way that in our arrogance and insanity, we were doing everything and anything other than this, insisting that this couldn't be enough, this was inadequate, but actually this is it. So just allow a glimpse for one moment right now. It's so easy. All you have to do is just stop making effort for one instant. And as I've said recently, if that's too much, you can just imagine stopping making effort for one instant. And in this one instant, one thousandth of a second, that's all it needs to be. It doesn't need to be, again, it doesn't need to be sustained. When I say it doesn't need to be sustained, that's what I mean. It doesn't even need to be sustained a full second. If that's possible for you, wonderful. You're very fortunate. If you can sustain it for 5 seconds or 10 seconds or a minute or whatever, wonderful. It's such a blessing. It's really a gift. It's rare. It's a wonderful thing, and you're very fortunate. But if that's not the case for you, if it's only a thousandth of a second, you're still blessed. So this, again, any comparison that you want to draw, or any false standard that you're holding yourself to, just see the foolishness of it and abandon that, and really make that little effort. That there's no effort being made, not even to condemn yourself, judge yourself, compare yourself, or anything else, but just be willing for one instant, just like that, to make no effort. There's just an opening, there's a flash. And in this, you can tell the truth is that here right now is the living reality of health. You just see it, notice it, that it's the absence of effort just for 1,000th of a second. You can feel it, glimpse it, notice it. So this is the living reality of health, and you see that it doesn't, that it is vastly greater than even the most grandiose idea of health. And then you see the power of it. And this is why I'm saying that it's the idea that, the mind wants to say it's either or. But you see the falseness of that in this glimpse. If you allow yourself, you notice in this glimpse, just for this 1,000th of a second, just in this 1,000th of a second, that the living reality completely eclipses everything else. There is nothing else. Just for the 1,000th of a second. Don't try and demand that it must be beyond that, because that's just an unrealistic expectation. We're learning to walk very, we're not that advanced. I'm not that advanced. So wealth. Okay. So, by now you kind of maybe get the idea, but we'll look at it anyway. So you see, same thing, wealth, it elicits this response. So the mind says, oh, what is that? And it's looking, brings about its little bundle of what it believes wealth is. And so that you see that it's just some conditioned idea. It's some thoughts, images, memories, sensations, etc. These come and present themselves, and typically we are entranced by it. So this is, you just see the mechanism of what's happening. Here you are, you're aware, you can recognize in this 1,000th of a second, there's just pure awareness. And then this pure awareness becomes fixated on what the mind conjures. And then it brings about this sense of, oh, I'm here and it's there and I'm lacking. I'm lacking that. So now we're craving for it. We're seeking for it. Oh, I need that. I need that. If I had that, then I would be okay. I need that wealth. We start looking to make sure, and we say, sure enough, it's true. I don't have that wealth. I need that wealth. That must be why I'm not feeling good. I need that wealth. Whatever that is for you, it's different for every person, but you're only interested in you. It's something that's blessedly. So the good news is that you can just see it. And in the seeing, there's a freedom. So you see, okay, yes, this ideas are being presented of wealth, and that I've been lured by them, that I need to have those things. And then look and see that those things won't really satisfy. That you see, you have to see the mechanical process that's going on. It's just a mechanical process of creating some kind of false lack. So that lack is actually it doesn't depend upon the specifics of what's being presented. It's just a process. So as long as that process is going, the process of I'm here, that's there, I'm lacking. There's just, as long as there's a sense of distance, separation, then there's a sense of lack. Because whatever, of course, if there's this distance and separation, I'm lacking whatever I'm at a distance from. So you have to see this process is going on, and then you see how it's kept alive, because the mind just keeps offering up whatever evidence will support that process, just to keep it going. So you can see in your life that this sense of lack has long been here, and it's taken many different forms. But those forms are not of, they don't, see, we keep making the mistake of thinking the forms are what I need. If I can acquire the form, then I will be fulfilled. Then I will have the true wealth. But you gain the form and you find, no, this process is still going. There's still a sense of lack. What is it now? And then the mind offers up the new thing. So we want to see the process of separation, distance, and lack. And then we want to see that that process is taking place. And again, all that's required is just for one instant now, just this flash of no effort. If you can just drop the effort for an instant, or you could just imagine that, then you catch this glimpse. You see that there is an eternal, abundant reality. And again, it's really important that this is not something that you should not have the incorrect expectation that the mind will agree, or that this is going to be sustained for a long time, because it doesn't work like that. At first, it seems very, what's the word? It seems, well, it is ungraspable. It's just that our habit is that we only believe something is real if we can grasp it. And so here, what happens is the invitation is just for an instant, drop that grasping, and you're presented with this eternal reality. It's here all the time. It's not like you're bringing this about. It's that for an instant, you cease fixating. They're here. It's like there's this little speck here, and you just myopically fixated on it all the time. And so you're saying, somebody comes along and whispers in your ear, look, there's infinite eternal reality. And you say, where? I don't see it. And they say, well, everywhere. And I'm looking there, I don't see it. And so for an instant, the invitation is just drop that, just defocus, relax. And you suddenly realize, oh, yes. But then this habit reasserts itself. Wait a second. In order for it to be real, it must be graspable. And then you fixate it again. And you say, I've lost it. It must not be real. It must have just been a figment of my imagination. It was a hallucination. And this is why I often say that we've got these two parallel tracks. There are two functions of the nervous system. They can be cultivated independently. They also are synergistic. But one, this grasping function, we've overdeveloped, and the inhibition function severely underdeveloped. So that's why we can only stop the grasping for half a second or a thousandth of a second, because we haven't strengthened that capacity adequately. And because we're largely ignorant of its existence, even, then we can so quickly deny that it's even a reality, because you say, well, I don't know, I thought it seems authentic and real, but now where is it? I can't find it. Yes, of course, because you're exercising the grasping function again. So we just need to cease making effort for thousandth of a second, or if that's too much, a millionth of a second, whatever. And if on and on, whatever. If that's too much, then a billionth of a second, I don't care. And you just see for one instant that, oh yes, there is this, all is, it just is, all is this. Because we could say all is well, all is taken care of, and that's true, but it's also a little bit misleading, because it's just like, it's just all is. I am. So even the notion of some possibility of anything not being well or not being taken care of doesn't even appear here in this one flash, because this is just complete totality. So you just keep glimpsing this, and you just keep, the more you glimpse, the more it starts to become harder to deny. Mind is very powerful, so mind will find ways to deny. So don't have the unrealistic expectation denial should cease, because denial it just keeps on going. But regardless, you start to this inhibition function becomes more strengthened, more cultivated, and starts to just become more accessible. And you start to see what's being pointed to, even though this grasping function is still very strong. So it just continues to say, I don't think so. There's nothing. That's nonsense. That's not real. But you start to realize bit by bit, wait a second, I know, I am aware of the grasping. I'm also aware of the inhibition. I'm aware of this instant of totality. I'm aware of this. I'm aware of both. I'm aware of all. And it starts to dawn on you, oh, I'm not defined or limited by that grasping function. So that grasping function has been my false God. I consulted it for everything and believed it, but it has to dawn on you as you continue to have these flashes of recognition that, wait a second, for one instant, the mind is not here. There's no grasping just for that split second. And that's enough to prove that I am, even when that grasping function is not. Therefore, I am not defined or limited by that. I am aware of that. The same as I am aware of this inhibition and the totality. I am aware. So I am is the is greater than either of the functions. So we start to realize, here again, what is the truth of wealth? It's this living presence that is it's infinitely greater than even the greatest conception in mind. And happiness, I think we know what happiness is, but then you see how this idea of happiness, and when we cling to this idea of happiness, how much effort is going in all the time unconsciously to rejecting experiences, saying, oh no, this is not a happy experience. This one must be gotten rid of. Well, then we can just tell the truth about it. That's not a supreme happiness. That's a pretty limited happiness. If that happiness is threatened by some experience, if that happiness can disappear because of some arising effort. So that's not a happiness that will really satisfy. And frankly, it's a happiness that is elusive. But we can see, because we've been repeating this over and over for the last 50 minutes or so, this one, so I hope you're following along. This is always the invitation that you're actually participating and receiving the invitation. So you have to look for yourself, but for one instant, make no effort. And you see here the living reality of true happiness. And then you see that even though this grasping function arises again, and the ideas of happiness and unhappiness and feelings and memories and all that arise, you can start to notice that this this greater reality of true living happiness is not affected by any of that. You notice that it's just remains. We could call it okayness. We could call it, well, call it health or wealth as well. call it many things, but you just notice that if you just keep glimpsing, you see it. You see, wait, yeah, here it is. It's always here. That's strange. So now there's this kind of flip-flopping thing that happens because you can surrender into this ultimate nature, supreme reality, or uh, authentic self, or whatever you want to call it, the living reality. And for this instant, there is this, you can see, you can feel, you can notice, it's with all of your being, that there is a eternal okayness, eternal happiness, eternal contentment, satisfaction. It's timeless and formless. And so this is glimpsed, directly experienced. And then, of course, this grasping function reasserts itself and it says, wait a second, hold on. I'm in charge here. Let's get everything in order. What's going on? I'm sure things aren't okay. Let's make sure that we can be on track, getting things okay. And then it seems like we lose it. So we want to look at this and see, because this is a place where we can get stuck, where we can say, well, okay, that, I don't know, that was okay. That seems, it was really nice and seemed true, but now I just seem to be stuck again in the familiar, miserable me, and I don't know what to do about that. And I'm still having the same kinds of problems and resistance and frustration and disappointment and discouragement and pain and conflict and so forth and so on. So I guess that didn't work. And now I've got to figure out what will work. But here again, we need to have the proper expectations. And it also is very valuable to tell the truth and see, well, hey, isn't that what I've always done? I mean, isn't that what you've always done? You've just constantly been making the mind, this grasping function, your false God. Anything, it says jump, you say how high. It says there's a problem, you say, oh, how big? What do I do? And this is the game we've been playing for our whole lives. And you can just tell the truth that it has not ever delivered on the promise that it's going to actually give true health, wealth, and happiness. Never has. So we want to be intelligent. And even though we have tendencies to be impulsive and reactive and fearful, we need to just be willing just to slow down and be honest and say, okay, hold on. Yes, I get it. The mind is screaming. You got to do something now. We're in trouble. We're in pain. It's urgent. This is a dire situation. It's do or die. The mind likes that big drama. And so that's going on. And we need to be willing just to say, hold on a second. Because again, like when the child is demanding at 9 o'clock at night, you live 1,000 miles away from Disney World, and you're not going to go to Disney anyway because you don't agree with their values and politics and whatever. But you like the kid, if you let the kid, they're going to get you all wrapped up into their drama. And then you're way off balance, and that's not a good situation for anybody, right? The child clearly needs the parent or the adult to be clear within themselves about reality and how things are and what's appropriate and so forth. And so, when the child is throwing the tantrum about we need to go to Disney World right now, uh, you just are a fool to be reactive to that and get wrapped up in that drama. You have to remain clear about what is true here. That we're not going to Disney, and this wouldn't be that would be insane and unhealthy for everybody involved. And I love this child, and I'm here to support the child, even though I get it, they're having a hard time, and I want very much for this to be resolved in a good way. But you can't get wrapped up in the drama. You can't get reactive, or it just becomes a big disaster. So we have to see we have to do the same for our own minds, our own conditioning. Just see that this is the same thing that's going on, that there's a tantrum and there's fear, and it plays every card it's got to get you sucked into the drama and reactive. Oh yeah, it is the end of the world. Oh, I got to do something right now. Anything. The pain is unbearable. The suffering is just tremendous. I've got to do something. It's been like this forever, and it's too much. And you have to just pause. Just wait a second. Well, let's look. And then you see, because you have these glimpses, you see how powerful the glimpses actually are, because they give you a perspective that otherwise you don't have that footing. You're totally unstable. So of course you're going to get sucked into the drama, but now you have some stability because you have glimpsed repeatedly in your direct experience this transcendent reality, or this greater truth of presence, of eternal abundance and supreme okayness. And so you just, okay, I feel that I'm getting hooked and dragged into this drama, but wait a second. Just for an instant, pause and see clearly that what's happening right now, in this instant right now, all is well in this instant. And the mind says, it's not all well. That's crazy. Don't you know there's so many problems? And and it starts listing them off. And you got financial problems, and you've got to make this decision, and you don't know what to do, and you're not sure how you stand with this person. Maybe your marriage is rocky, and and you did that terrible thing today. Remember that? And you got to beat yourself up about that, and it's dragging you into all this stuff. And you've just got to again pause. Wait a second. In this moment, in this instant, right now, there's no problem. You have to see that clearly. So now what's happening is, before we didn't have the ability to, things were inverted. So we didn't know the truth of who we were. So the mind is the dictator, and whatever it's saying, we're just feeding it. We are the power. You see, you are the power. You are the power that of light that illumines all that you are aware of. You are that which illumines the mind, that you are the life that animates. And without you, none of it exists. So, but we didn't know that. And so there was this inversion, and we're just being dragged along. It's like we had the cart before the horse. So now we have this new perspective, a new uh, realization that helps to put things right again so that we can do take our rightful position, so to speak, and set things right in the true way, which is to be that calm presence, tell the truth. Now there's a new possibility, and this is what the peace inquiry is, which is that when we the first step is to recognize, to have the direct revelation of this truth of formless awareness that is unconditional peace. So we just need a glimpse, just a thousandth of a second. But we need to really tell the truth about it, to really see it. It can't be just some thought. It can't just be, oh yeah, I had that experience last week or had that experience 5 minutes ago. It has to be now. It has to be living now, which means for one instant now, there's a dropping of the effort or an imagining of the dropping of the effort. It's the same thing. And this is the first step. And then from this correct position, we can now shine this light of awareness and let it set everything right. See, so we start from this direct revelation of unconditional peace. It has to be glimpsed now. And then imagine this unconditional peace expressing fully and freely as your mind, your body, your emotions, your relationships. And all this is doing is we're setting things in the right order, which is first to know, to be anchored in this truth of presence, of formless awareness, this pure light, and then of unconditional peace, and then just to shine this forth. And we're using this imagination because what it's going to do is it's going to bring into awareness consciously all of our conditioning that interferes with that. So we're setting things right rather than being sucked in by all of the conditioning. We're just remaining as this pure awareness and allowing that light of pure awareness to shine forth upon all of the conditioning. And now we're like that parent who's calm, collected, anchored in love, kindness, and compassion. And we just see and have compassion. Oh, here's this child who's very tired and has unrealistic expectations. And you just keep shining that calmness, that clarity, that anchoredness. And who knows, maybe 1 minute, maybe 1 hour, maybe 1 week. It can't demand that it has to happen on our timeline, but eventually that presence, that anchoredness, it is vastly more powerful. So you can think of it as like a vibration. And that vibration is so much more powerful that everything must entrain to it as long as this vibration remains clear. But if we get sucked in to the lower vibration, then we lose this greater vibration and we're instead feeding into the lower vibration. And of course, we know what happens then. We just get more and more and more and more of that. So here we just are staying. So again, for an instant, just drop all effort and just notice this supreme vibration of unconditional peace. And then just invite in your imagination the possibility of this expressing fully and freely as your body, your mind, your emotions, and your relationships. And then you just continue to let it shine forth as the conditioning presents itself. So the tantrum might be thrown, the objections, the fears, the anxieties, the contractions, the tensions, the armor, memories, the projections, all the rest of it. And you're just keep allowing this unconditional peace to shine forth so that you are seeing all of what's happening anchored in this unconditional peace. And eventually, of course, it becomes such that maybe you don't even, you're so disinterested in all of the drama of the conditioning that you're more and more just anchored in this unconditional peace, but you still want to engage in this process because at least peripherally, gently, lightly, you have an awareness of the movement, the release, the expression, the flow of all that conditioning, because otherwise what happens is it just stays bottled up. But here we just want to allow it. It's not a monster. It's not anything terrible. It's just energy that's been bottled up at a lower vibration. And we're just allowing that to be transformed by staying with the higher vibration. And as long as you have the intention, as long as you are willing, as long as you are doing your best, you are doing it. So don't allow doubts to overwhelm you, because the doubts can be there. Oh, I'm not sure I'm doing it right, or I'm doing it enough, or having the right experience. Don't get caught up in that drama. That's just this conditioning being released. It's a wonderful blessing, you see. So that's it for the formal portion today. Thank you as always for joining me. And for those who are here live, we'll stay on for the Q&A. So let me end this recording first.